My schedule is off. They let us out of school. Hopefully the boys win.
Well, the heroin is starting to take effect, so we better
get started.
All right.
It's going to be a long trip.
All right.
All right, here we go, sir. Go, G.
What do I need to do?
Push the damn button.
And greetings. This is the Long in the Boot podcast, the podcast coming to you from the heel of the boot of Southwest Louisiana. I am your host, G Long. Sitting across the way is Deb.
Hello, peoples.
Hi, Deb.
Hi.
How's it going?
Hey, it's going.
It's a weird day.
It is a weird day. Things are off.
That's right. We're recording this on Tuesday, the day before we put it out, which normally we do it on Sunday.
That's because we're wild.
Well, no, it's because the baseball team has been doing well and they're playing a playoff game today. And, well, I'm not going, bad person that I am, but instead.
But we hope the best for them.
We do.
I want them to win.
Instead, we're going to do this podcast.
And we're going to do our podcast because we neglected to do it Sunday.
We couldn't do it Sunday. Timing was way off.
It was. I didn't feel it.
Because Saturday.
I didn't want to talk to you Sunday. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
I was tired of you. I was tired.
Well, once I let you out of the closet, though, everything was okay, right? So anyway, if you want to.
You people that know that that's never going to happen in this house.
That they know of.
But now the audience that doesn't know us might think that, and somebody could report you. Update.
Look, I've put her in the closet many, many times.
And you know who was in there? Tom Cruise.
Actually, Glenn has never put her in the closet. He is lying.
I don't need narration. We don't want an outside narrator telling our thoughts.
I wish I could get Ron Howard to narrate. That would be great.
That would be amazing. Everybody would listen.
He's probably expensive.
Then we might actually have.
Yeah, if you'd like to get a hold of the
really
Long in the Boot podcast, you can give us a call at 337-502-9011. The podcast itself and all the back episodes, the catalog, as it were.
It is a catalog
we're
now.
Up and getting close to 100.
Because we're old.
Yeah, and you can do that at longintheboot.com. And all the podcasts, including this one, will be there tomorrow.
And the numbers just keep clicking along.
And there was something. Oh,
it's the Facebook page.
The Facebook page.
Yeah, we're shifting.
We're getting rid of the Facebook business page, mainly because
we're not a business.
We're not really a business.
No, we're just here doing this thing. And if people tune in and listen,
don't get me wrong. If somebody wants to just send me a pile of cash, hey man.
I'm a plebe. I'll take it.
I'll even claim it on my taxes. But
you good citizen.
Oh yeah. Hey man.
All right. I want to contribute, give back.
No, nothing but good here. I'm a patriot.
There you go. You know what? That has its own connotations these days. So we're changing.
Oh, not that kind of patriot.
Oh,
not a January 6th patriot.
No, that was my point.
Yeah, no,
some people don't hear the same thing you hear.
I have patriotism, but there is a limit.
There is a limit because I also have common sense. So we're shifting from the Facebook business page because it really is kind of pointless.
And you can't have conversations on it.
You don't have the same ability as a group page. So we're shifting over to a group page. If you have not gone there, you can go to the Long in the Boot business Facebook page and click the link that I have provided and just take it to the group, join up.
And we'll post that on our personal.
Yes. And as
Facebooks.
of right now, G has not gotten any community standard rules on that page.
Right now,
that is an open group.
It is an open group. Now, that being said, if you say something really wrong, I'm going to just nuke you, man. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is.
You can't be.
No, you can't be personal.
No, you can't be personal. And you can't be,
If somebody's an idiot, you can't call them an idiot. You have to do it with words.
All right,
real
Todd.
words. And I'm not a Todd. And
you see what I did there?
Yeah, I did. And so anyway,
you have to be nice, and you can still have a good conversation, and you can absolutely.
And you're
share
allowed
different
to
opinions.
disagree.
You can. And recognize that you're really probably not changing anybody's mind.
Hopefully.
But I would like to think that our listeners, when they have an opinion, but they get new information, that they are the kind of people who will say, well, I may not change my opinion, or I might be willing to change my opinion some based on new knowledge and new information.
Right. And I feel like, no matter what, somebody has an opinion, no matter what I think about their opinion on something, I'm allowed to, in my head, think they're wrong, but at the same time, not treat them any differently.
Yeah, because they're still people.
And
we're all people.
We can argue the point and all that stuff. Now, will there be rules in the future?
I'm sure they'll have to be. Somebody will say something's too sassy and they'll get in trouble.
But if
Although you say outrageous crap sometimes.
No, I don't.
All the time, G.
You're out of your mind.
Sometimes I married you, so there must have been a moment. when
you came to your senses and married me?
That mind said, no, are you really going to do this? Yeah, I guess I am. That's what happens when you quit college.
That's the kind of salesman I can be.
That's what happens when you leave LSU and
I should have been
home.
hired immediately to sell things.
That's it. You're such a good salesman. All right.
I sold this.
So
yes,
I'm sorry. I had to take a moment with that statement. Just
what statement?
The statement you just made.
Did I make a statement?
As you tapped your chest like a...
Actually, I touched my nipples, but anyway, go ahead.
Like an animal. All right. So our topic today, that was the other reason we didn't record Sunday. I don't know that we had solidified an actual...
No, we actually hadn't. We were kicking around some topics, and it turns out that none of the topics we were kicking around
ended up where we're at. Okay, so we went down a rabbit hole, and here we are.
Yeah.
Currently in today's news.
Well, you may have heard.
Yeah, there's a lot of protesting going on college campuses. I'm reading a lot of people's opinions about what they think about the students, and that there may be not all students out there doing it.
I can sum up the opinions.
Okay.
On one side, we have the people going, those kids are stupid.
Okay.
And on the other side of the equation, we have going, those kids are simply trying to bring peace to the Middle East.
And on the third side,
by putting tents up on a college campus where they spend many dollars to go to school.
Well, we'll get to all that. But then there's another point, and that is I got to go to work.
Get out of my way.
Screw all that.
I'd like to have my graduation, please.
Yeah, I need to get this damn degree, or just the regular people who are going to work every day and don't give a hoot about what's happening.
For me personally, my thing is if it impinges upon my freedom, your protest is a problem.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get to that. Opinion. So I decided, I'm thinking about these college kids, and I do like to look at all sides and try to be level and balanced about it. So my thought was, today colleges are interested in more than just grades and test scores on applications, because some colleges actually selected their students and they don't just take everybody.
Oh, they pick and choose.
They pick and choose. So they're also looking for personal qualities, and I have a list of the 9 personality traits that colleges look for now, other than just grades. So Let me
guess. Well, first one, non-binary.
Well, I that will fall in probably to one of these.
I was kidding.
Traits.
I didn't expect
Okay,
anything.
well, you should have. So curiosity is number 1.
Curiosity.
Like
by curiosity?
Stanford University's website says we want to see the kind of curiosity and enthusiasm that will allow you to spark a lively discussion in a freshman's seminar and continue that conversation at a dinner table.
Provided you have the right opinion.
All right. So that was Harvard says they want people with a growth mindset, and you need to be able to demonstrate you have a growth mindset. So I thought that one was a little... I'm not sure how you're going to do that, but okay.
Well, is it a test?
All right. Look, I got 9 qualities. So
okay, go ahead. Keep going.
Number 2, see, persistence. You don't give up. Some colleges want students who not only challenge themselves, but they persevere through challenges, set goals.
What you're saying is they endeavor to persevere.
Well, yes. Well, they have grit. A study by the University of Pennsylvania psychologist Angela Duckworth says that grit might be more effective predictor than IQ.
Define grit.
Well, you don't quit. You commit to something and you don't quit. See, I'm a cut my losses and get the hell out girl. I am more than willing to say, all right, you know what? I may have lost some time. I
am willing to go, you know what, this ain't working. Let's try it a different way.
Exactly. So commitment, well, Well,
you can beat your head against a brick wall, or suddenly you can go, you know what, my head is never going to break this wall.
All right.
How about if I just walk around it? maybe climb over,
So
maybe dig a hole.
But this is another quality. The key is to show that even when you faced obstacles, you maintained your energy, enthusiasm, and passion for the goal you set out to achieve. So I don't know how you prove that. Young people, you need to be really creative. So number 3 is risk taking. Now, I want you to keep in mind these qualities as we think about the young people on campuses across the country doing what they're doing. Right?
So you've got to be a risk taker.
Massachusetts Institute of Technology, when people take risks in life, they learn resilience. See, persistence, because risk leads to failure, and as often as it leads to success. So the most creative and successful people at MIT, that they're risk takers.
Well, there are parents that need to hear this for sure, because nowadays high school kids all are A students according to their parents.
Well, colleges want students
who fail.
Yeah, are not afraid.
Some kids need to fail at their whatever they're doing, so they can only get better.
So they can buck up and.
So they don't have a silly knot.
All right. So now we're going to go from persistence, risk taking, and curiosity to compassion.
Oh.
Yes. Now we got to get in the fields.
Compassion.
Okay. Those were all active. Those first ones were all active.
Well, you know how you prove that. A kitten. Just bring a kitten with you to the interview.
All right. Well, the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley, our favorite UC Berkeley, compassion literally means to suffer together. The feeling that arises when you are confronted with another's suffering and you feel motivated to relieve that suffering. So I guess they want to relieve the Palestinians' suffering.
Ah, okay.
Georgia Tech says compassion for others is one of the 8 character traits they value. Syracuse University wants a strong candidate, and that even as you are working to develop yourself, you help others. So concern for community, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And you know what? They can show that. I've written enough letters now that, kids who work in their community. So that would be supported. I can see where you can support that.
Right.
You can demonstrate compassion.
Now, some of these schools, of course, if you tried to use your, let's say, work for your local house of worship, those schools would actually see that as a negative.
Well, I would say that just depends on the school.
Absolutely.
And like-minded kids are going to go to.
That's what I'm saying. Some of these schools, for all of their talk there, they would not like kids who have demonstrated their compassion through work through their local house of worship.
Oh, because it's a religious.
Right.
Well, I went to Catholic school. We had to do apostolic
Harvard's
hours.
not a Catholic school.
No, but that's my point.
Ivy League schools aren't
It's the school that you chose to
go.
They
may have started out that way, but they're not anymore.
Well, it's the school you choose to go to. Then go to a religious school. Go to a Bible
what I'm
college.
saying is that's hypocrisy on their part.
On their part. All right. Well, then here we go. Number 5, open-mindedness. Colleges want to see that you can respectfully consider different points of view and that you welcome the chance to consider these perspectives. Pomona College, their website says that it values an openness to new ideas and rejection of easy answers.
So telling Jews that they're bad because of a country in the Middle East that does things, even though they're just American Jews, that's open-mindedness.
I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, open to new ideas and a rejection of easy answers. I'm thinking if we can come up with easy answers for some major serious problems, that would be phenomenal.
Well, there are easy answers, but a lot of times those easy answers don't end up helping.
Well, I would think here those easy answers would just include open-mindedness. If everybody would just open their damn mind.
Yeah.
All right.
You Palestinians.
Oh, wait. And
once you get something to eat, open your damn mind to the idea that you're probably going to have to move.
Well, I think ultimately Israel is just going to continue until there's nothing there and there's no one there, and then they've got free land.
And
they'll just
again, I'm just against murder in general.
We've said that before.
And I think, but you got to be nowadays, if you don't take a stand, sometimes people tend to lump you in with the other side automatically.
Because you say I'm a patriot, and then all of a sudden
all of the horror that's been foisted upon Israel by terrorists, I understand Israel's point of view. But at the same time, Israel's stealing land that they signed a treaty saying they would give it to the Palestinians. and then they violated the treaty simply because somebody else got elected the next time around.
Well, doesn't that seem to happen here? We do it too.
The United States would never violate a treaty with another group of individuals.
Ask the Indians. Ask the Indians.
No. That's propaganda.
Okay.
That's the Native American propaganda machine. I can't do it.
We paid them back with slot machines.
I admit it. I'm full of shit.
Okay. Number 6, social consciousness.
Okay.
Our ideal candidates are inspired to emulate our founder, Benjamin Franklin, by applying their knowledge in service to society, to the community, the city of Philadelphia, and the wider world, says the University of Pennsylvania. On their admissions page, Oberlin College seeks individuals who care about the world, who believe they can make it a better place, and who have the courage to try. In other words, I can protest if I think you're screwing up. Right?
Yeah.
Social consciousness, is that number 6 on the list? Is that what our young people are doing across this country?
Well, that's it. So if you were, let's say, a senior in college and you found a freshman foreign exchange student from France, let's say,
are you going to be
and you talk her into bed and you get caught and they're mad, you can say, hey, I was just emulating Benjamin Franklin and trying to engage in an open-minded conversation with this young lady.
You reached out for that.
I know.
Way across boundaries.
I'm using
that
their
should
rules.
Not have been crossed.
Using their rules.
Oh, you fit into the next category. Creativity. So we started with curiosity. Now we're at creativity. Based on a recent Adobe, the program study.
What?
I'm telling you. 95.
That you had to buy a subscription to.
I didn't. I don't do that. I don't like to give anybody my money. 95% of admissions decision makers believe in the value of creative skills. Creativity is listed among the top qualities considered by Duke, MIT, UCLA, and it doesn't necessarily have to be expressed through activities in the arts.
Okay, show me how to measure it. Just show me how to. What's the measure?
Demonstrate creative thinking. You might include an experience where you came up with a creative solution to a problem. You
notice that most of these qualities they're looking for in a student are really just subjective qualities. So what would happen is you would create a hierarchy of the process of getting students.
Yes.
And you would put people in place that basically build the scaffold that leads to only accepting a certain type of student. And those certain types of students will go nuts and riot.
Will be the one, but traditionally college students this has been their norm, that they make changes and they do it.
But what I'm saying is the definition of each of these qualities are subjective in nature.
Oh, absolutely.
So
human resources.
But when people talk about Ivy League schools turning kids into liberals, no, they're not. They're actually just inviting liberal. They're cultivating because the people in the positions of selecting students already have biases because they were built with these things, and whoever measured these and decided these have a.
It's no different than watching early on Fox News, and all of the anchors looked identical. Every woman was blonde. They all had so you knew whoever was hiring had a type,
had a predilection for
for this kind of. All right, collaboration is number 8.
Oh, teamwork. Oh.
Yeah, I know. That goes against all that I am, too.
It goes against everything I stand for.
Okay. But sometimes
there is no one of us as useless as all of us.
Sometimes you do have to work as a team. And I understand that to survive. We talked about tribalism.
Sure.
So, all right. If you had a leadership role on a team, you need to say that. You need to put that in your paperwork. It's important to demonstrate that you were an effective leader of a cohesive group. I like that.
As long as it wasn't a violent sport like football.
Collective, cohesive group. And they have to be successful at something, I guess. Even if your team ultimately fails. Okay.
That makes no sense.
I know it doesn't. I'm reading it. You might think colleges look for leadership skills, but they do, but they're more interested in leaders who bring people together. Sports isn't the only area where you can illustrate that. Collaboration can be found in labs and classrooms, assignments, volunteer work,
Socialist organizations.
Like when we were in college and we were the older ones in a class, when we had to group up, usually you'd have to take control.
We ended up just taking control of those young people. Yeah.
Well, true. Because everybody wants I'll do it. And then
we've already had kids. We've already taken control of younger people. So,
all right, let's do the last one so we can move on to the rest of our topic.
Yes.
cultural intelligence.
Knowing what's going on in the world. Or is it about, you know what? Cultural intelligence, that's where they find out if you believe in the hierarchy that they talk about.
The caste system?
Not white supremacy, but
a caste system.
But basically that system within
a strata. You have a strata.
Basically, it's critical race theory.
All right. In describing successful applicants, USC said they're interested in people
Money.
that are interested in the world, interested in other peoples and cultures. Oh, so your French girl would have been.
Yeah.
You could have used that. I have a cultural intelligence. Okay, wait. You enjoy examining important issues from a global perspective. So again, this is what our
Ignore the fact that you're a member of a nation. You're a member of the planet.
To express this trait, you don't need to have had traveled extensively or lived in a foreign country.
Even better.
You might just discuss your interest in mastering a foreign language. Maybe you experience advocating for an international issue you care about. The very last line of the very last trait.
How many kids are getting graded that are out there right now?
I know, right? If you're out there and your professor sees you, they're like, man, this kid is really...
Well, I'm sure, I guarantee that professors told their classes, look, if you guys get out there and protest, you're going to pass.
All right. So now this is what colleges are looking for today. But I would argue that these are qualities that a lot of people throughout the centuries, from the time there's been education in colleges to go to, those are the people that will gravitate towards college anyway.
But in the past, colleges in, let's say, European American history,
yes,
most colleges started out as religious institutions.
Yes.
So,
but you know what? You can protest. The monks can protest their little
but
trainers.
They can't protest. Monks can't protest by virtue of the fact that they have one boss. Well, actually, two bosses, but only one they can see. They got an
earthly boss.
That's the boss,
and he uses the heavenly boss.
And then they have the ethereal
to control.
Boss. But basically, remember, anything the Pope says, it is as if it came from God's mouth.
Yes.
So therefore, the Pope is
controlled.
Yes.
He is the control.
But you're not going to have monks generally. But you don't have to be a monk to be a member of the church.
No. And that
will become important.
So let's go back. We'll do a little of the history of just campus protests. What have students protested and
you may be surprised to learn that college students have been little buttholes throughout history.
Little instigators, as they should be. They're interested in education.
And I went back. I could probably find even earlier, but this one I seem like a good place to start. It's the University of Paris in 1229.
All right.
All the way back in 1229. And it started as a little bit of a thing. It turned into a full-on strike.
Okay.
It took place in, get this, Paris. It started out as a disagreement over an unpaid tab at a tavern.
Oh, all right. So there have been taverns outside of colleges all this time?
Yeah. Wow. And the ensuing disagreement caused the deaths of several students when the Queen ordered the mercenary bodyguards to punish the student riot. The students protested with a dispersion, which is a student strike. And what they did is they told the masters if they tried to give a lecture, they'd kick their ass.
They threatened him. Okay.
Most masters were more than willing to not do their lectures. To not work
because they're just teachers.
Yeah.
Yes.
This lasted for more than 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And led to reforms in the medieval university system.
Oh, wow.
And that was all controlled by the church.
Okay.
The medieval university system and Pope Gregory, not usually the most liberal of fellows. This would be, if you're keeping count, it's Pope Gregory the Ninth.
Okay.
In case you...
There have been the other 8. They did their
counteth
thing,
not to 10.
This is what 9 is. Yeah.
And he issued something called the Perens Scientiarum. The event demonstrates the town and gown power, struggles with the church, secular leaders and emerging students, and a lessening of local church authority over the University of Paris.
So they had to let their grip loosen.
Well, it wasn't fully under the control. The Pope just said, it's mine.
Oh.
The university was immediately placed squarely under direct papal patronage.
Oh, so like sending in the National Guard.
In a way, yeah, taking over.
Taking over.
Part of the program to centralize the church structure, which started under Pope Innocent III. Okay, so it is one of the youngest or one of the first universities to ever have been built in Europe.
Okay.
And it was made for the religious and the rich.
Of course, the colleges were always for the rich.
Right.
To begin with.
Often what would happen in most of these countries, the rich or the oldest male child got everything.
Yes.
Second male child got diddly squat.
Mm-hmm.
So what did they do? They went into the church. But you didn't have to become a monk or a priest. There were other positions available within the church. This was a large corporate structure with many, many jobs.
Sure, you have
within
administrative tasks that need to be done. You have all sorts of.
So the church gave them their charter. The church ran it. Students were considered part of the church. They wore robes and shaved the tops of their heads
As if they were monks.
to signify that the church protected them.
Oh, their affiliation. Okay.
You had to obey the rules of the church, and you were not subject to king's law, canon law only.
Oh.
So they had a problem, and the problem was students were like, well,
You can't touch us.
you can't touch us. We're going to go out and have some fun. And
You say it lasted 2 years?
this riot lasted 2 years.
Did they not go to class during
They
that
started
time?
going to university at the age of 14
Oh, ew.
and went for between 6 and 12 years.
Oh, so you're trying to.
So they could become lawyers
Yeah.
this way. This is the weird thing. The masters actually had their own clubs. They were organized into nations. They had the French, the Picards, the Normans, and one that basically just meant everybody else. And they called them the English.
Nice.
Almost all of the students were from elite or aristocratic classes,
Of
as I
course.
said. Mm-hmm. And the cost of travel and maintenance of a stay at the university, as well as basic tuition, no one else could have possibly afforded this.
Yeah.
Because they paid.
Well, there was no reason for anybody that wasn't wealthy to send their kids to college.
And they had bunches of little rebellions in town, in Paris.
Okay, so
and they called
understood.
these town and gown riots.
Town and gown.
Town and gown, because it would be the townies versus the gownies.
Oh.
And this is the other thing, every college was a guild. It was also a guild. So no one could build another school.
Close by.
You couldn't do it. You weren't allowed to. So, okay, the riot. So intoxicated students wandered into a local tavern and consumed many, many vats of sweet wine. The students disputed the bill with the tavern owner. They said they didn't know him anything.
Oh.
And he said, well, you do.
Yeah, you do.
And this started a physical altercation. The tavern owner then called upon his neighbors, and the students were beaten up and kicked into the street.
Okay, as
There.
they should be.
Problem solved. Now, the next day, this is important, Ash Wednesday,
Oh, no.
the next day.
So that was Fat Tuesday.
Correct. The aggrieved students returned in many larger groups, armed with wooden clubs and bricks. They broke into the tavern, which was closed because it was Ash Wednesday,
yeah.
beat the tavern owner, and destroyed the establishment and several businesses on either side of it.
Because, they joined in too. All right. Well, then did that end it all?
They were arrested, but because they had benefit of clergy,
They didn't.
they had to be released. And rather than risk the ire of the Pope, yeah. Now, Blanche, the regent of France, stepped in and said, hey, I want retribution. So the university allowed the city guard. Yes, the university sent in the city guard to punish student rioters. The guardsmen would go through town, and if they found a group of students, usually 4 or more, they would then just beat the shit out of them.
Wow.
And only a few died.
So I was going to say, most of the riots I read about, the serious ones and the somewhat humorous ones, there was death.
After the killing of many students, students said, that's it, we're done, and they closed down school, the big strike.
So again, a riot can be quite successful.
And
they got
all of the
reformed?
students just left. They went to Reims, Oxford, or Toulouse. And in fact, many of these students went to other universities outside of the country.
So did that university close down?
No, it didn't.
Oh, okay. They got a new group.
They basically demanded justice from the Queen. The Queen was like, yeah, up yours. You're not getting it.
Okay.
So it put an economic strain on Paris for a while. But gradually, 2 years later, the Pope said, I'm taking over. I'm in charge now.
Okay. So
everything's fixed.
We're not going to have that foolishness.
And we're not going to have this stuff happening here at this university. And basically,
it quieted.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, their everlasting soul was in jeopardy. It's not just earthly crap anymore.
So that was 1229.
All right.
Now, the good one, the really good one, is in England.
Okay, we'll get to it.
I'm getting to it, man.
Okay.
University of Oxford.
All right.
Or if you'd like, the University of Oxenford, the tributary where they once took oxen to the city market.
Oh, how simplistic.
Oxenford.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah,
Oxford.
just little,
a little tidbit of knowledge. That's what you're here for.
That's
dude.
what I'm here for.
All right.
And it is the Saint Scholastica's Day riot. I say day
like the magazine,
like it was one.
Like the magazine, Scholastic?
Yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, there is a saint by the name of Scholastica, the twin sister of Benedict.
Saint Benedict?
Saint Benedict.
How
and
did
she
they
is
both
also
get
a saint.
sainted? What kind of family is this?
Well, they were born of wealthy parents.
Shock.
480 AD.
480.
He left eventually to go to Rome to study. We don't know much about her, but at some point she's known to have founded a religious community for women near Monte Cassino in Italy.
Oh, okay.
And that's that big building in World War II they couldn't.
Do you have a quick little how she got sainted? What did she do?
Well, she stayed there, but notice she's near her brother. And the twins would visit each other once a year in a farmhouse because Scholastica was not permitted inside the monastery.
Oh,
Women couldn't go in.
Yeah.
Well, vice versa, too. He couldn't go into
the female.
They spent these times discussing spiritual matters. And according to, and there we go, maybe, the dialogues of St. Gregory, the brother and sister spent their last day together in prayer and conversation. Scholastica prophesied her death was close at hand, and she asked Benedict to stay with her until the next day.
Okay.
He said, I cannot because I have to go back into the monastery. I cannot be outside the monastery overnight.
Oh, overnight, okay.
Because that would break my own rule.
Okay.
I made the rule. I have to do it.
Okay.
So
That's
supposedly,
fair. I like that.
This is one of her miracles, by the way. Scholastica asked God to let her brother remain, and a severe thunderstorm broke out, preventing Benedict from returning to the abbey.
Oh. Huh.
Miracle.
Yeah. The weather.
Yeah.
Once again, the weather.
When Benedict said, "What have you done?" she said, "I asked a favor of you, and you refused. I asked it of God, and he granted it."
Nice.
And 3 days later, Benedict, second miracle, by the way, Benedict was praying in his monastery and said he saw the soul of his sister rising heavenward in the form of a white dove.
Oh.
She turned into a dove.
She turned into a dove.
Miracle number 2.
Oh.
Benedict then announced the death of his sister to the monks and later buried her in a tomb he had prepared for himself.
Oh.
So there you go.
Oh.
So
okay.
that's Saint Scholastica.
That's the saint part of it. Now get to the
okay.
protest.
1355, Saint Scholastica's Day. That's February 10th for us, heathens.
Okay.
2 students at the University of Oxford complained about the taste of the wine at Swindlestock Tavern.
Swindle.
I should point out the irony of a name. Swindlestock Tavern.
And they're serving crappy wine.
Which stood on Carfax in the center of the town. Carfax. I know.
Okay.
Yeah, go figure. All Carfax is just, it's a street. And I won't get into why, but we've had enough.
We don't have time. Just go.
The students quarreled with the taverner. Argument escalated to blows, as they will. The inn's customers joined in on both sides, and the resulting melee fell into the street. The violence continued for 3 more days.
Oh, my Lord.
With the armed gangs growing on both sides each day as people came from the countryside to assist whichever side they were on.
Whoever they wanted to help.
Now, remember, this is the university. It's in town.
Okay.
University halls and students' accommodations were raided. Students were murdered. There were some reports of clerics being scalped.
Oh.
30 townspeople were killed and an estimated 70 members of the university.
Good gosh.
This had happened once before, but in that case, only about 30 people died.
And nobody wants to send the cops in. What the hell?
So
they don't want to do it now. They didn't do it then.
In fact, at one point, the town lynched some students in 1209.
Trying to stop all their foolishness.
Because these students had the protection of the church.
Yes.
King Edward.
And their kids and their families' money, too.
Yeah. So Edward III sent judges to town with commissions of, it's Oyez and Terminer, but all that means is they get to determine yes, what's going on and come up with a solution. He came down the side of the university authorities, surprise, the church, hello, who were given additional powers and responsibilities to the disadvantage of the town. This is crazy. The town was fined 500 marks, which was a huge sum of money at that time. The mayor and his bailiffs were sent to prison.
And they had to pay the church? The town had to pay the church?
No, the school.
Or the school, okay.
Same difference.
Yeah.
John Ginwell, the Bishop of Lincoln, imposed an interdict on the town which banned all religious practices, including services. In other words, they can't go to heaven, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Except on key feast days, burials, marriages, and he allowed that young people could still be baptized.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But the whole town basically was without God for a year.
Wow.
They were denied.
They removed the grace of God.
You know, we don't think of that today as being workable, but it was very workable then.
Do you think that could work now?
No. An annual penance was imposed on the town.
Oh, my.
And on each St. Scholastica's day, everyone in the city was required to attend a mass at the University Church of St. Mary the Virgin for those killed. The town was also made to pay a university fine of 1 penny for each scholar killed. Remember, 70 pennies.
Wow.
There was a lot of pennies then.
Yeah. Just whip them.
Now, if you think that's crazy, don't worry. They dropped the practice in 1825.
Kept with it, though, didn't they? Wow.
In 1955, the 600th anniversary of the riots, an act of conciliation was granted, and the mayor was actually given an honorary degree.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ain't that something?
You know, that it sounds like they really do hold on to their history hard.
It's really weird, though, when you read about them complaining about the wine. It just had a vinegary taste. Well, you know that had to happen.
Well, sure. Wine goes on.
And then when you read about there's actual people who saw all of this take place, and they wrote it down. It started as words, and then somebody threw a mug and hit somebody in the head.
Absolutely.
What was the stubborn and saucy language?
Stubborn and saucy.
And then, as he writes here, Chesterfield then threw his drink into Croydon's face. De Croydon then threw his wooden drinking vessel at his head, the other guy.
Yeah, that would have hurt.
Those sympathetic to the town say then a student stepped in and beat him in the head with a pot.
Oh.
A petition by the town authorities to Parliament said students threw the wine in the face of the tavern owner and then beat him with a quart pot. So clearly a pot was involved.
I would say then that tavern owners need to, make sure that they're serving actual decent alcohol, I guess.
Weapons used by both sides. Cudgels, staves, bows, and arrows.
In a tavern?
Out in the streets.
Oh,
They're just moving around in the town at this point. Oh, it's awesome. People started ringing bells, but you never knew who was ringing the bells.
Ultimately, because the whole purpose of protest is to get something accomplished. Did anything get accomplished?
2,000 people, this is my favorite, 2,000 people from the countryside joined the town at the Western Gate, all wearing black and carrying a black banner screaming, "Havoc, havoc, smite fast and give good knocks."
So they were all just up for a brawl.
Yeah, and they beat the crap out of the students.
So I guess really every protest, you just got a bunch of people who join in because they want to see it all burn.
True. Now, town and university officials got together during this riot and actually went through the streets saying the king said that no man should injure a scholar under pain of forfeiture.
So don't hurt the
you can beat the students, but don't you dare beat the teachers.
Oh, I thought just any scholar.
Oh, I guess that would be students
too. That could be any student, I would think, not just the But because if the professors had any sense, they would have stayed out of all that.
Man, I'm
going to stay in my office and watch from the window.
But this was remembered, like there were festivals.
Well, apparently.
And there's still, the University of Oxford still has a day, St. Scholastica's Day, where they celebrate
where nobody
riot.
Pays their bartender's tab. Nobody pays their tab.
I just found the details when you get into them, and there's so many.
There sounds like there's a lot. Mine's a short one. I'm going to take us to America, to our first.
Yes.
Okay, because it's short, but it's also something that you eat that pissed off some Harvard students.
In America.
In America. So it's the Butter Rebellion. The Butter Rebellion took place in 1766 at Harvard University. It was the first recorded student protest in what is, now the United States. Wasn't the U.S. then.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, good point.
It was the Puritans, right? That's who's
What
running
year
it.
again?
1766.
Well, we're getting close. They would have thought of themselves as something else, but maybe not Americans.
Well, but I mean, the Puritans started it.
They wouldn't have felt like British anymore.
No, they would have. All right. So the decade preceding the American Revolution, it was an economic difficulty, kind of time.
Sure.
So it was difficult for Harvard to get fresh food.
Okay.
All right. Fair enough. A satirical account of the Butter Rebellion, written in a biblical style, was penned during the American Revolution. One meal with a particularly rancid butter led Asa Dunbar, the grandfather of Henry David Thoreau, to tell one of the tutors, "Behold, our butter stinketh. Give us therefore butter that stinketh not."
Nice.
All right. Dunbar was punished for insubordination.
Oh.
For his little poetic line.
He must have thought it was hilarious.
I would have thought so. His grandfather probably would have found it quite entertaining as well. I would think they'd give him that just as, he's got a writer in his past. But nope, punished for insubordination. The next morning, his fellow students protested his punishment by leaving their hall, cheering in Harvard Yard, and dining in town instead of on campus, where they're not going to get, rancid butter. The protesters were led by seniors Dunbar, Daniel Johnson, and another young man named Thomas Hodgson. The Harvard Corporation admitted, the butter we served the students, it was rancid.
It sucked.
Yeah, but they said they were extremely alarmed by the violent, illegal, and insulting behaviors of the young men. Eventually, they enlisted the help of the Massachusetts governor at the time, Sir Francis Bernard, and he addressed the students in chapel and basically shut it all down and ended the entire Butter Rebellion crisis.
Okay.
And I bet Harvard never served rancid butter again.
They would have been paying for that butter, so they did have a right.
They were Harvard students, and it wasn't free.
Hey, man.
It wasn't free.
I should expect my butter to taste good.
And even the last names of these young men, those were wealthy.
Oh, sure.
Children of wealthy people.
Oh, of course.
Because today, they didn't have all that student loan crap and, all that.
Yeah.
So Butter Rebellion, first one in the U.S., 1766. Don't serve rancid food,
especially butter.
Yes, and those are less serious protests.
How do you? Well, my question is, how do you? I mean, they must have bought rancid butter because
it was hard to get good fresh food. They couldn't get fresh food.
Well, I'm just thinking that butter once the butter's made, you have students,
bad?
it should be used before it goes bad. Would think. Maybe it was a particularly hot summer or something.
That's it. But those were all our little protests were all kind of fun and. I mean, not fun. There were people that died and they held grudges.
Which brings us up to what most people are comparing the riots today.
Yes.
To the riots during, and there were many protests / riots during Vietnam.
The 60s were amazing in America.
And I'm not even going to bring the civil rights movement into it because generally, when you really compare, people in the civil rights era did not fight back. That's what made their
because we have the right to peacefully protest,
and that was the key.
That was the key. But in places like Kent State,
cool.
they kept, even though and there were many in foreign countries too, where the students were peaceful, but
at some
government
point but at some point something went wrong.
Well, and in foreign countries they don't have that protection of the civil
which brings
rights.
me to one old people already know, but I'm going to just real quick for you folks that
are younger,
our younger audience, if you don't know anything about it. I encourage you to go look it up, and it's the Kent State protest that turned into what is known as the Kent State Massacre. It started out as just a protest.
A peaceful protest.
Because a lot of people are complaining now that the people today that went in and broke up some of these protests were too heavy-handed. Mm-hmm. I would say compared to Kent State, they were pretty tame.
Fairly. Yeah.
Now, that being said, one of the differences I feel between these riots now versus Vietnam is everybody that was protesting during Vietnam, at least if they were under 22, had a vested interest.
Oh, the young men?
The men.
Yes.
The women were just supporting the men.
Well, they were going to lose their men or their brothers.
Well, everybody.
Yes.
You had a vested interest in not going to Vietnam. You might want to visit Vietnam, but the problem was they also wanted you to kill people in Vietnam, and that made the whole trip not fun. So at Kent State, it started out as just simply a protest. They were protesting the expansion of the Vietnam War. If you didn't know it, at some point since we were doing so well in Vietnam, Richard Nixon decided to go ahead and invade Cambodia as well. Actually, he bombed Cambodia. He sent Vietnamese troops into Cambodia. By the way, they got their butts kicked. Anyway.
Apparently the Vietnamese didn't want us there.
Well, no, the Cambodians
and
didn't.
None of them wanted us there.
But he announced that we were going into Cambodia, and then the protest just got more and more amped up. Across the United States, more than 4 million students participated in organized walkouts at hundreds of universities, colleges, and high schools. The shootings and the strike affected public opinion in a big way.
Yes, it did, because it was on TV.
And these protests, by and large, were very peaceful. Mm-hmm. However, at Kent State, something horrible happened. What really brought this on was they were protesting the ROTC at Kent State. That's how it started. A group of students at Kent State wanted the ROTC building closed. They wanted the ROTC troops to go away.
Yeah, to not be.
Now, you had students who were in ROTC, of course. And so it's not going anywhere. It started out with 500 students on May the 1st. Excuse me. May the 1st in 1970. And pretty soon it just kept growing. And then May 4th, Nixon announces the expansion of the Vietnam War into another country, Cambodia. And this just freaked people out. So they got together at Kent State, and the students buried a copy of the United States Constitution to symbolize the fact that Nixon had killed it.
Yeah.
And then a sign was put on the tree asking, why is the ROTC building still standing?
Oh.
Then a protest that was organized of Black United students also took place during the afternoon in order to demonstrate solidarity with the anti-war protest at Kent State University because, as BUS said, 50% of the combat soldiers in Vietnam were Black men.
Yes.
Attracting around 400 students. Okay, all of it ending peacefully. The next day, Nixon is caught on a microphone, hot mic moment.
Oh, wow.
When he was talking to an employee at the Pentagon, she said, "I loved your speech. It made me proud to be an American." And Nixon says this, "You see these bums, blowing up the campuses? Listen, the boys are on the college campuses. They are the luckiest people in the world, going to the greatest university. And here they are burning up their books, storming around this issue. You name it. Get rid of the war. There's going to be another one."
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that night, funny, things always start in taverns, don't they? A bunch of people began leaving taverns in town and began throwing beer bottles at police cars and breaking windows. In the process, they broke a bank window. The alarm goes off. Uh-huh. News spread, and several bars just shut their doors and got everybody out. But the people didn't leave. They were in the street. By the time the police arrived, we have 120 people throwing beer bottles and flipping off the police. Can you believe?
Shocking.
The entire Kent State Police Force was then called to duty, as well as officers from the county and all surrounding communities. The mayor declared a state of emergency, called the Ohio governor, asked for assistance, who then ordered all of the bars to be closed permanently while this was going on. The decision to close the bars early seemed to have increased tensions.
Oh, they've all been a little stirred up already.
So the police began using tear gas on the crowds around the campus, which drove all of them to the campus. The campus.
Yeah.
Then threats began to be received, according to rumor, that the revolutionaries were at Kent to destroy the city and the university.
Oh.
Several merchants reported to local news that their businesses would be burned down if they did not display anti-war slogans. There's been no proof of this.
Yeah. Okay.
Kent's police chief told the mayor that according to a reliable informant, the ROTC building, the recruiting station in town, and the post office were targeted to be blown up that night. There were unconfirmed rumors of students caching arms and plotting to spike the local water supply with LSD.
That must have been terrifying. Timothy Leary was seen in the background lurking.
It was also reported that students had built tunnels under the city to blow up the town.
So are you saying there was wild conjecture?
Yes. So Kent State officials then now the Ohio National Guard comes in.
Shows up, yes.
And the National Guard is sent to Kent State. They make that on May the 2nd at 5 p.m., but the Guard did not get into town until the next evening around 10 p.m. By this point, the demonstration was huge on the campus, and the ROTC building was on fire.
We knew it wasn't going to stand forever.
The arsonists were never apprehended. No one was injured in the fire. However, this is what the FBI said. A significant portion of the Kent State students were not involved in the actual setting of the fire of the ROTC building. So it was outside agitators.
Forces. We have those now, too.
Yes. They found railroad flares, a machete, and ice picks inside the building, which students didn't have access to those.
So how did it come to the outcome?
Okay. Well, while they were trying to put out the fire, they started getting hit with rocks. The National Guard made numerous arrests and stabbed one student with a bayonet. Sunday comes to Sunday.
Bloody Sunday.
Some students actually went into the city to help clean up after the riot. So the Guard announced that curfew on Sunday had gone into effect. A few more students were bayoneted by guardsmen. And on Monday, May the 4th, they get orders to disperse. At first, they try to do it with tear gas. The crowd doesn't leave. The National Guard advances. And at some point, and this is where it gets, depends on who you ask, shots were fired, of course. And so that pretty much put an end to the riot or the protest, whatever you want to call it. 4 students died. Several were injured, 9, I think. One student suffered paralysis. But this is the Vietnam protest. So protests did get weird. We haven't seen the National Guard brought in.
No.
We've seen the state police. That's as far as it's gone.
Well, and they've been unwilling to call the police.
True.
So
it probably didn't help when Jerry Rubin and the Yippies, that's what they were called, the Yippies.
The Yippies?
They were violent hippies.
Oh, okay.
He came in and made a speech, and he said in front of the press, well, the first part of our program, everyone needs to kill their parents. They're the first oppressors.
Oh, God. Okay. And Neil Young wrote a song.
2 weeks later, another guy, an SDS member, had distributed flyers to an event where he said he was going to napalm a dog.
Wow.
Turned out it was an anti-napalm teach-in. He was trying to teach people about what napalm did, and he wanted it to be stopped being used as a weapon.
But he didn't actually use it on a dog.
No,
right?
But he did that National Lampoon thing, right?
Yeah.
Come to this event and I'm going to napalm a dog.
Yes.
People showed up to save the dog.
To help the dog.
I'm not going to napalm a dog, but I am going to talk about napalm.
I'm here to teach you something. So
just like,
he used a little propaganda.
Buy this magazine or we'll shoot this dog. It's the same thing.
Yes.
And that brings us to today. And, I'm torn on this. I hate the violent side of it. Protesters. But here's the problem. What I see right now, protesters are getting personal, and they're basically doing the very thing that they're accusing the other side of being.
That seems to keep happening, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
You can't look, just because somebody is Jewish doesn't mean they support murder. That's what they're doing. But so the big thing that students want today is divestment.
Yes.
And these colleges get a lot of money. I was stunned when I heard how much money some of these colleges actually received from companies, most of the major companies of the world, which unfortunately is a lot of defense contract type people. But nowadays, divestment is different because you have companies that are interlocked with boards of directors that are on all these different boards, and retirement accounts and pensions.
Yeah, it affects many other things. It's not like that. It's not a simple answer.
It's not, because what the students want is for the colleges to not have anything to do with any business that does business with Israel.
Well, how about they just protest Israel attacking?
Well, my thing is they're hypocrites.
Yeah,
in this instance, they're protesting what's happening in Israel. Fine. But this has been happening. What's happening in Israel right now has been happening in several countries in Africa for years.
And they haven't said anything about all of that.
Russia's trying to exterminate the Ukrainians, and people are like, screw those Ukrainians.
There hasn't been a lot of protesting about that.
No.
So the things that, and then what about just changes in this country? I mean, historically, protests on college campuses have been for, economic opportunity, political ideology. They're protesting for peace. They're protesting for, in
this case,
change.
They're protesting against Israel's behavior, but really it's the government of Israel's behavior.
And they think if they cut off the money source from the college, but it's not going to work. That's kind of my point, I think. Yeah, I don't think this one's going to be effective in that way. But the colleges hear them. They are using their numbers. They understand that there's power.
Right. But you're not going to force a foreign country, in this case Israel, to stop doing what it's doing, because the government is structured right now with people in place that are just they don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
For all of the things we said about Putin being, belligerent, and he won't stop. He'll never stop. He's like a Terminator. Well, Netanyahu's not much different.
No, I don't think
and I'm not saying he's a dictator, but what I'm saying is he only understands, look, what he sees, it's that old thing about, a nail. Every Palestinian to Netanyahu is a nail. He's the hammer. Mm. That's the problem. That's what he understands because he was brought up that way. I go back to.
You're not going to change that ideology.
No, you're not going to change that ideology.
No. And then you've got the other side of that issue, which is the terrorist side.
These Palestinian, especially the women and children.
Yeah.
They're going into the last city right now, Rafah.
Yeah, I know.
And that's where everybody is. And so
that's where they've run to.
That's the only place left. And Hamas is probably there. I wouldn't be surprised, but I have a feeling what we're going to end up doing is we built these docks to bring in supplies. I've got a strange hunch that a lot of these boats are going to be taking Palestinians and bringing them to other parts
elsewhere.
Of the world.
Well, yeah, it's going to be, it's
but then that gives Israel, that rewards Israel with land.
Because eventually it just clears everybody out.
Belong to somebody else.
And they're going to just go in and move in. I think they won't stop until it's cleared.
It was I forget the name of the company that does like projects for the government. It's a big one. I just can't think of the name. It doesn't matter, but they get contracts to go clean up after a war, right? Like in Kuwait after the war. Uh-huh. They estimate that it will take 14 years to clean up the debris from the war in Gaza. 14 years just to clean up the debris.
And it's a small area. It's not that large in comparison to, say, Ukraine,
a country.
Yeah.
But 14 years because it's all concrete.
That's going to put a lot of people to work. So I guess we got that.
Well, it won't be Palestinian people.
Oh, no,
they haven't been able to work.
They'll have to go start new lives other places.
I don't know. I don't have a solution.
Oh, absolutely not. We never have a solution, people. It's just we're back to this idea about balance.
Well, again, I'm against murder. And I'm especially against people who can't come together and just do the right thing for their people. That's the problem. When you see the other side as less than human.
When you look at the other people.
And Hamas views Israel as less than human.
Oh, absolutely.
And Israel views Hamas as less than human.
But who's got the majority of power in that situation?
Well, in that region right now, Israel does, of course.
Well, and that's
But Hamas is being backed up. I mean,
it's complicated. And many people would say, why are we even worrying about it? Let's take care of our business here.
Well, but why.
Yeah, I do know why. I'm playing the devil's advocate.
I know. And so here we are, and we're going to keep seeing these protests. They're not going to go away.
No, they're not going to go away.
But here's what I have a feeling of. So if you're for Trump for this election, if he doesn't end up in jail,
there's some ifs for all of it.
But if he doesn't and he wins, then these protests will have given him the vote, because what's going to happen is these young people who would normally support the Democrat just won't vote.
So
meanwhile,
then it'll fall to the people who will go out and vote no matter what, because they're
It's going to be a weird election.
It is. It's been weird for quite a while now, but this will definitely be a strange one.
And the economy is going to be a big part of it.
And I think if the judge right now puts him in jail for contempt for not shutting his mouth, that's going to get him more votes too.
And finally,
the
Democratic convention is in Chicago this year.
Chicago loves a good riot.
Winds of Vietnam protests.
Yes.
And the Yippies. Again, the Yippies started that in Chicago.
Yep.
They got their heads busted, but they're the ones that started it.
Okay,
So we got that to look forward
colleges
to.
are filled with the kind of people who would get out and protest. They may still be immature in many respects as
But
young
here's the
people,
problem.
But
They're protesting on the wrong side.
I've seen protests on both sides.
Exactly.
I've seen both sides out there saying their piece, and for the majority, I think they have been peaceful. But you've always got
from both sides now.
You've always got the pot stirrers who just want the shit to blow up.
And I have a feeling that in these places where protests go violent, it is outside agitators doing exactly that.
Exactly.
And it could be either side.
Because
being the outside
they
agitators.
don't probably have a side. They're just people who want to see shit burn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So in that thought process, while thinking about and reading about college students and the personalities and what they're cultivating for their individual colleges, the kind of person they want, I thought about the kids who just go to a technical school, get a certificate, and go to hell to work.
That's right.
They're not out there protesting. They're getting a life skill.
Well, I don't know.
And they're
Look,
going to work.
As a welder, I see two pieces of metal,
and
I protest that they are not joined properly.
Well, do you see what I'm saying, though? Like, these young people are the movers and shakers. They're the ones that are going to try to enact change. And then we've got and that gives me hope.
Yeah.
That gives me hope that we have all of these different aspects.
Remember, all of the people who protested during Vietnam, when the Vietnam War ended, they all went, I did it.
Yeah.
It was me.
Yeah.
It's like sports people who have the pennants after the Super Bowl screaming, woo, I won. We won. And you didn't win. They did.
You know what? Learn how to fix my plumbing. Let's all go do
Learn
that.
how to fix my AC.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
How about protest the high cost of college?
Yeah.
Well, I got here. It's up to those peasants to pay their way into college. Oh, I see.
All right. Well,
how many of those kids at Columbia have a trust fund? I bet a lot of them do.
Perhaps. It does.
And we do know now that the organization that paid for the tents is made up of a bunch of donors. Soros, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It's a voice. What was it? The Voice for Jewish Freedom, I think which is ironically people protesting what Israel's doing.
Yeah.
They're non-Zionists. Not every Jew is a Zionist. It's that simple.
God, people are so complex.
Yeah.
People just need to find their balance.
Not all Catholics are Jesuits, okay?
There you go.
You know what I mean. You Jesuits out there, you know what I'm talking about.
Not everybody's going to.
All right, we're done. We got to be done.
I think we should be done. It was an interesting topic. There are lots of other protests throughout history, lots and lots of them, some very serious. But you know what? They all did enact change, especially the French. The French protests they get change in their country. I mean, they were just protesting the workers because they raised the retirement age.
That's not a college protest.
No,
though.
that was just
cultural protest.
French citizens going out.
Well, what is a revolution, really?
Well, that's my point. If you see these things working,
it's an organized protest that has organized violence
with an agenda
and with rules.
We need to get change. Well, Americans, where are you at?
Yeah.
What you going to do?
I don't know. I guess we're going to have to call it.
All right. We're going to call it. We're going to tell you that your joy is portable. Take it with you to a protest.
That's
and
right.
either joyfully get change.
Yeah, and I need to go through this real quick and get it out there so it's out tomorrow.
I think, community, you're going to get it raw.
Raw and uncut. Ew.
And you that doesn't
nasty.
Yeah, you cleared your throat too many times. All right, people, enjoy what you do and try to find your balance in life.
See you in 2.
Bye.